Hey everybody, this is your stock market review for the week of August the 11th and brought to you by me, Brian Pezim of Bear Bull Traders. We'll take a look at what happened last week in the market and then we'll take a look ahead, see what we got coming up, and also a couple of stocks that I am in and will be watching next week as well. So let's get down to it. Okay, so let's start out with what we always do. A quick review of last week. The indexes did bounce back this week, rebounding from that weak July jobs report that we got the previous week. So down 1 week, back up the next. Investors were buying back tech stocks and consumer discretionaries after a bunch of good quarterly reports this week. Investors also got some news about tariff updates and could have been taken negatively, but it seemed like they were largely ignored by the market. So that's kind of what happened overall. You can see there the Dow, Q, SPY, and IWM all up pretty much the same amount they were down the last week. Consumer discretionary, which was one of the worst performing sectors last week, was one of the best this week. Technology, of course, as I already mentioned. Healthcare and energy continuing to struggle here. They were the sectors that lost the most this week. 2-year was up a bit. 10-year was up slightly as well. So Treasuries inching up slightly there. US dollar finished down on the week by about 0.5%, and Bitcoin up a little bit from the previous week. And that was your week in review. And taking a quick break for mention for my books on Amazon that are available: How to Swing Trade, Profiting as an Active Trader, and How to Trade Options, my latest book. So you can check them out. The links to those books are in the description below. And yeah, hopefully you've got a chance to download my How to Trade Options book. It was free last weekend. This weekend it's back up at the regular price, but still pretty good deal at about $7. So if you want to check that out, they're available on Amazon. Okay, quick cycle through the indexes here and the treasuries starting out as always. You can see here we're still stuck in a range on the 2-year and the 10-year, and nothing much to say there unless we do break out of that range. The 10-year 4.5, 4.2 seems to be just stuck in there for months on end. So until we break, it won't be just keeping an eye on it. The Dow here, you can see we did make some ground back up on the week, and you can see here this is the all-time high. We've bumped there a couple times, and so the question is, are we going to still find some buyers to get up through that 45,000 level all-time high? And I'm not sure that we will. We did push to an all-time high on the Qs here. Still seems to be some buying interest. Technology kind of leading the way here after that April sort of Liberation Day sell-off, and you can see here all-time high. It's like we do that chant, all-time high. And SPY pretty close to all-time high here again. We've gotten through earnings season, so the question is, what kind of catalyst would there be to continue to push this market higher, which is already pretty rich valuations here on a lot of these stocks, and some of them just really outrageous, like some of the ones like Palantir, some of the real popular ones. Price to earnings just out of this world. IWM continues to struggle a bit here. Of course, it's pretty sensitive to interest rates, and this 225 level still a barrier for us to break higher from, but it does seem to be continuing to make a series of higher lows. So maybe we'll continue to go up as long as interest rates cooperate. And here's your sort of fear index, fear gauge. You can see the VIX right down in 15 level after sort of popping up here from last week, July jobs report. And the dollar kind of just pulling back here. Some concern, I guess, with the independence of the Fed going forward. And the dollar still looking a little weak here compared to some of the other currencies. And Bitcoin had a pretty significant pullback over the last week or so. Again, with the July jobs report, seems to be trading like a risk asset. But you can see here we've bounced back, and we're trading around 116.6 area right now. And that was your week in review. Okay, so let's look at some of the actives I've got. I've still got this EVTL. I still have a starter position on this. It is a position, not really trade. It's not really a swing trade. I'm really looking for this for a year or two. I think it's got a lot of potential in this space, and I may just drop it off the list because just keep repeating myself week after week here. But I'm just holding that as kind of long as it holds this 475 level. But again, I only have a starter position on it, so small size there. I'm going to start talking about some penny stocks because I've had a real ballpark out of the hit out of the ballpark on a couple of these penny stocks, and this one I really like right now. I think it's early on this one. Unfortunately, it is a Canadian stock. This is called Focus Graphite. They've got both a mine and a process to do the processing of the graphite. And I think it has a lot of room to run. So any of you Canadian investors or have access to trading Canadian stocks might be an interesting one. You see, it is a penny stock. I talk about penny stock trading in my Profiting as an Active Trader book. This is the kind of stock you take a position in, and you hope for a 10 bagger or better. And sometimes they don't work out, so you have to be prepared to lose money on these as well. But you're hanging on for those ones that really knock it out of the park. And speaking of that, this is the one that I mentioned in the room a number of times when it just started to break out here. Mentioned in our trading room, and you can see here I was into this around 12 cents, and it just started to run. And of course, I was selling all the way up, not knowing where the top was. But the top didn't really come into play until about 180, 177 there. And I did sell some up in the 170s, but I also sold some down here thinking that we weren't going to be getting a move like this. But this was this was my trade of the year stock probably for the time being, because I had a lot of shares in that, probably more than I kind of realized or should have. Nvidia, still long some Nvidia, just continuing to hold here. It looks like it's going to go to 200. Palantir, I didn't hold it through earnings because I don't like holding stocks through earnings. As you know, if you read my swing trade books, don't like holding swing trades through earnings events. So unfortunately, this one did gap up. I was holding and sold Amazon before the earnings report, and glad I did that. But not so glad that Palantir gapped up like this after earnings. So I got back in it, and so I'm back in it on a small size, and it looks like it's going to 200 as well. But again, talking about a stock that's really outrageously priced, it's just kind of indicative of this market. Silver still holding some. It did pull back here. I'm into it back here, but still have some silver stocks, and it looks like it's popping back up again. So I think silver and gold are still looking pretty good for trades. And those are some of my actives right now. Okay, so let's take a quick look at some stuff that I'm still watching. I'm still keeping an eye on this AUR, Aurora Innovations. I think it's a Cathy Wood investment, but you can see here, I'm just waiting to see if it'll break out here. So I'm got an alert set for 650. If it breaks out there, I'll be going long some. Other than that, it just seems to be trading a range. Maybe if it pulls back to 575, I might get into it. Might be a chance. Gold, as I mentioned, I'm still in silver, but gold is quite interesting. You see, we broke out this week, maybe on a bit of a pullback here, but I still think gold has some potential to run, and it's up at an all-time high. Google, I had on my watch list from last week, was suggesting selling some downside puts because it did seem to have some support, and certainly it broke out from this sort of 195 level on Friday. Had made a nice move up there, and I'm still keeping an eye on that one. Meta, again, just hanging in there. Again, good opportunity just to sell some downside puts because it just looks like it's got some support here. And just take in some premium, maybe do a spread, maybe sell some puts and then buy some puts lower just to protect yourself. But it looks pretty good as well here. Tesla, I'm kind of interested in. It looks like it's breaking out of this downtrend that it's been in. You could also draw a bit of I could draw a trend line coming up here, so it does look like it's breaking out of this pennant to the upside. In truth, I actually do have a position in this. I bought some calls expiring in the end of next week, and we'll see where it goes from there. But buying calls, again, you can read about that in my options trading book. But that's a way to trade and define your risk. I'm only risking what I invested in the calls. So again, it looks like it's breaking out of this trend line and maybe has maybe 340 or early in the week, or maybe even 350 optimistically. But I'll be looking to sell some of those if we gap up on Monday. And that's kind of what I'm looking at for next week. Okay, so let's wrap things up here. This is week of August the 11th. As I mentioned, sort of the earnings season kind of winding down here. But there's your levels on the Dow, Q, SPY, and IWM. As far as economic events go, we do have CPI data that will be quite interesting, and of course of interest to the Fed as well, to see where inflation is running. And then we get PPI on Thursday. Usually they're back to back, but they're 1 day apart here. So PPI and CPI, we get retail sales on Friday. That'll be interesting to see how the consumer's holding up. And then, of course, consumer sentiment there at 10 o'clock on Friday. So a few notable things to watch. And as well as our earnings coming up, we do have Oklo and Archer, some stocks that have really moved up a lot. CoreWeave, another one on Tuesday. Cisco on Wednesday. So a few stocks of interest, but as we said, we've most of the earnings season is kind of behind us now. So let's take a look at a high-level view. Yeah, markets are back at all-time highs, as we've talked about. Earnings season's winding down. We'll have to wait to see if there's still an appetite for buying at these elevated levels. But definitely dip buyers are still out there to support the markets. Headline risk is still there, as it always is. But the tech sector, AI and quantum stuff, is still the hot sector to be in. So it seems to be the place where you want to be. So, or anything related to that, like materials related to the AI and tech sector. So that's it, everyone. Have a great rest of your weekend. I will be out of the office on Monday and Tuesday, but we will be starting as usual Monday morning at the pre-market show, and then trading the market open live on YouTube, as well as for our members. So hopefully you'll be able to join us there Monday morning. We'll see you later. Bye for now.